So in this topic, we are going to learn how to solve any quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. The steps will be as follows. First, we're going to manipulate the equation so that 0 is on the right side. In other words, all the other terms will be on the left. Second, we're going to determine the values of the coefficients a, b, and c. A is the number in front of x squared, b is the number in front of x, and c is our constant term. In the quadratic formula, a, b, and c are constants. Notice the variable x is not attached to them. Third, we're going to plug a, b, and c into our quadratic formula and then simplify the result. We simplify by first performing the operations under the square root. Then we simplify the square root by pulling pairs of factors out as single factors. And then finally, if there's a common factor in the numerator and denominator, we'll reduce the fraction. Let's take a look. Let's look at an example. Solve the quadratic equation 17x squared plus 9x plus 1 equals 0 using the quadratic formula. First, we have to make sure that the quadratic formula applies. Is this equation quadratic? Yes, our highest degree is 2. Second, is one side of the equation equal to 0? Yes, we have 0 on the right side. Therefore, we can apply the quadratic formula directly and find the solutions to this equation. First, we have to identify our coefficients, a, b, and c. For this problem, a is 17, b is 9, and c is 1. Now we plug all of these numbers into our quadratic formula. In place of b, we put 9. In place of a, we put 17. And in place of c, we put 1. This gives us x is negative 9 plus or minus the quantity 9 squared minus 4 times 17 times 1 all over 2 times 17. Now we simplify. When you simplify the inside, you get 81 minus 4 times 17. Your result is 13. So you get x equals negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 13 all over 34. Notice the square root of 13 can't be simplified any farther. Nothing factors out, so the fraction cannot be reduced. This means the solutions to our original quadratic equation are simply negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 34. Using the quadratic formula is easy so long as you follow the steps and do your math correctly. Let's now work through several examples together. Example 1a. Solve the quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. 5x squared plus x minus 3 equals 0. Recall, our quadratic formula says that the solutions to the equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 are given by the formula x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. In order to use the quadratic formula, we first have to make sure that our equation is in the proper form. That is, we want to make sure that all of our terms are on the left side and 0 is on the right. Well, notice in our example, that's the case. What we have to do first then is we have to find and identify our a, b, and c values. So notice for this example, I have a being the coefficient on x squared. In this case, it's simply 5. B is the coefficient on x. That is the number that's in front of x. Now this one's a little trickier because there is no number in front of x, but we recognize this as being simply 1x. So the coefficient there is positive 1, or just 1. And c is our constant term. In this case, our constant term is negative 3. So our values for a, b, and c are 5, 1, and negative 3. We now place these values into our quadratic formula. So here we go. X equals negative b. Well, in place of b, we're putting the value 1. So that means we have negative 1 plus or minus the square root of b squared. Again, in place of b, we're putting 1. So we'll have 1 squared minus 4 times a, and our value of a is 5, times c, and our value of c is negative 3. That's all underneath the square root. Now, in the denominator, we have 2 times a. 2 times a, and a again is 5. So we've now placed all of our values into the formula. All that's left to do is simplify. So let's go through this. We have negative 1 plus or minus, and we need to simplify what's underneath our square root. 1 squared is 1. And negative 4 times 5 times negative 3, well, you can look at it as negative 20 times negative 3 if you like, which is positive 60. So under the square root, we have 1 plus 60. And in the denominator, we have 2 times 5, which is 10. Let's continue simplifying, and that tells us that x is negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 61 all over 10. Now, can this be simplified, the square root of 61? No, so we leave it as it is. There's nothing else that will cancel, and so our final solution set to this quadratic equation consists of the following two numbers. It's negative 1 plus the square root of 61 divided by 10, and negative 1 minus the square root of 61 divided by 10. See how easy it is to use the quadratic formula? This completes example 1a.